Good morning, Alan Barkstrom,
Here.
Doug Erickson,
Here.
Brian Ernst,
Here.
Jeff Hallstrand, and Larry Palachuk. All are present.
Very good. Meeting minutes from April 10th, 2025. Looking for a motion to approve.
Move to the approve.
Motion by Barkstrom, second by Palachuk. Any discussion? Okay, call for a vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Treasurer's report, monthly reports.
Good morning. Everyone had the reports in their packet for the revenues from tax receipts, general disbursements, payroll disbursements, and also all of the balances in the accounts. Anybody have any questions on that information? Looks
Just a
pretty
comment, looks good so far.
good. Good. I'm gonna kind of skip the tax software because I want to come back to that one and stay on the delinquent and in REM. So today is the last day for redemption for those 2021 tax parcels. We are down to 6 as of today. So it started at 30. We are down to 6 that have until today to pay.
Did you say 6?
6.
6.
Yep, your packet says 7, but we have some coming in from an online payment today. So that will be down to 6.
That's good news.
Yes. And also on that, just kind of running the delinquents report for the county, the whole county as a whole, and there's 874 parcels that are delinquent as of 5/12 when I ran the report. So I think things are really going in a positive way as far as in REM. We have one parcel that we're ready to sell back from a property we took in 2023 that will not go to auction. So, and we have 2 more that want to buy them back.
Oh,
Or get to
that's
that
great.
point. Yes,
It's good for everybody.
it is very good. If anyone has any questions on that, if not, we'll go to the software.
Microphone, please.
Is one of those properties that chunk out here that would have given us more access to that lake? That was it 120 acres?
They have not come forward. They'll have the ability to. They've indicated that they
They've
are
indicated they're
interested.
interested.
So we have one that we've worked with that should pay in the next day or two, week, whatever. We have the number that we're going to give them for what they owe. There's 2 or 3 that have indicated. 2 others.
Yep.
Okay, so 3 total. So 2 more that have indicated that they are interested in purchasing it back. After the ordinance went through, they just haven't contacted us since the ordinance, but we know who those are, and we'll work with them once we get a little further. The reason we're still waiting on doing a couple steps in the ordinance is, was it May 19th? There's a court date. When's our court date?
June
19th?
June 18th, I believe.
18th. So in June, we go to court for the remaining ones. So we don't want to do the RFP to get the CMAs until we get everything, because there's no reason to do that process twice. So in the meantime, if somebody wants their property back, we'll work with them under the ordinance.
So it was posted in the paper. The ordinance was posted in the paper on May 1st. So roughly 30 days from the decision to the ability to move on that. So that's why we're waiting just a few more days. The other topic of discussion for the tax software, that's what I refer to it as because it's the treasurer piece. It's much more than that. So I've had Sylvia here as well. It's more than just, Novus is more than just the tax software. It's the zoning uses it, the RPL uses it, ROD uses it. It's more than just the tax software itself. So yesterday I had my district treasurer meeting and there was discussion. I had asked, there are 5 counties that are currently using Novus. One has an official proposal to their board to go to a different software. And you can see on the screen the map of what everyone in this state is using. And the majority is one of two softwares. It's either Transcendent or Catalyst. And I've talked to several different treasurers wanting pros and cons, feedback from both, what works, what doesn't. And Catalyst is a very good tax software, but doesn't necessarily help the other departments with permitting and the Register of Deeds and the RPL. So kind of the bottom line is if that's all you're looking for, that would be a good purchase. However, we want to use it for more departments in the county. So Transcendent has the ability to integrate in so many different ways. And Sylvia, feel free to jump in too. So Evan, Oakley, Sylvia, and I met with Christy, the president from T-Tech, Transcendent Technologies. And the efficiencies that we can gain as a team with the integrations is pretty unbelievable. For one example, from my perspective, when people pay their taxes online through Point and Pay, Transcendent has the ability to integrate and post that directly to their taxes without us having to do a whole nother step like we do today. So there's the online payment, and then we turn around and receipt them on the tax software. That would be efficient and done without a human being having to re-enter that information. So that's one example. Sure.
Good morning. So I'm Sylvia Kerner. I'm your Register of Deeds. And just to piggyback off of what Renee was saying, so this system that they're looking at changing that the 5 counties use now from Novus is the main central hub of what houses the property ownership in Price County. So this is where the entire public website is developed. So the real property lister is the one who maintains the database for all property ownership in Price County. This would be that system. So in addition to what the public sees on the website, this is the system that feeds the municipalities, the assessors, the Department of Revenue, the treasurer's office, you know, with the receipting ability. So the main hub of this system really starts in the real property lister's office. They're the ones who maintain property ownership on parcels, you know, acreages, assessed values. So that's the main hub. And so this will be a huge efficiency from what we have now. So I think this is going in the right direction. And yeah, it's good.
So I can talk about 2 other things. So I did talk to IT about this. Right now we host 2 sites. So we host our internal one that we do all the work, and then every night or whenever at midnight, it copies it and puts it out to the public. So the public then can see the most recent activity. That public copy, we have to have a domain, we have to manage it, we have to make sure it's up and running, we got to make sure it actually works every midnight. So TJ is excited to get away from that process. So with Transcendent, we no longer would host that secondary site. It's all web-based. So through Transcendent, which is a big part of this. And then kind of like Sylvia and Renee were talking, right now we have 3 products that do the job that this one product can do. So we would be reducing our costs on the other 2 products along with Novus. But so all 3 products would go away. Transcendent would come in, which then allows us to budgetarily, it's neutral, right? They're the cost of those other things, and Novus will cover the cost of this going forward. We're working on implementation costs and what that would be, but through land information, we believe there's funding available to cover that. There may be a little bit of cost that we'll have to work through and figure out, but in general, there's a lot of pros versus the cons of waiting or not doing anything in a timely fashion.
Mr. Hallstrand.
So with that in mind, so Transcendent seems like it's the direction we're being steered. Have they indicated to us that they could transfer our existing data into their system? Or is it going to have to all be manually?
Yep. So we
not?
worked. They interviewed him, but Burnett County is looking towards Transcendent. Some of the other ones. So we've worked with both Catalyst and Transcendent to see what our options were. They know what they're getting into. It would be a data transition. You would do a little bit of overlap to make sure everything's working, but then you'd go live on a date, like the first of the year, so that you have that data. But both companies, but Transcendent does understand what they're getting into with our data and transferring it over. And another reason looking at Transcendent is some of the other counties that are looking to transition are also looking at Transcendent. So it's kind of, they'll learn what the databases look like, because all the Novus databases are generally the same. And so the transition should be much smoother if they do several of them.
So this is on the agenda today for information purposes, telling us as a committee that we have to do something because Novus is no longer going to be supported.
Yes, there have been
And this,
indications that
Transcendent is, you've looked at all the systems that
yep,
are available, and Transcendent is the one that will work best for our county.
that are the group of individuals has come
And
up
the
with and said
cost
it.
will be minimal. There might be some, but we're already paying for Novus, so.
Yep. So we pay a yearly maintenance fee on Novus. We pay a yearly maintenance fee on 2 other products that this would replace. So in replacing all 3, that we're just gonna have one maintenance cost, which will be the same or close to.
So
the
so we
same.
know that we're just
Yeah,
at the
so
information only stage and that you're
what
working on.
my thought process for the timeline is to get it in front of you guys today to see if there was any red flags. Don't do this. Let it keep going with Novus or whatever, whatever you see might have been an issue. At June's meeting, we would like to bring a resolution and all the costs and where the costs would come from. So then we can work with Transcendent to transition, hopefully by the first of the year.
Okay. Does anybody else have any?
Yeah,
Mr. Buckstrom?
you said that Novus is no longer going to support. Are they just changing their software, or are they going out of business? What's going on with
So
that?
the history of Novus was it was a custom made product for these 5 counties. So Janet was a big part of it. Who'd you say the other one was?
Lynn was.
Lynn
was.
and Janet were like, it was kind of their baby. They created this with these other counties, and we've just always maintained it. Well, the individual who originally was part of it is 80 plus years old at this point. They've brought in a couple additional individuals to try to manage it, but they've indicated that long term this product most likely won't
So
be.
they're going away.
Yeah.
The
Oh, and as
current-
you can see, the state is
Mr. Erickson?
At one point, we are talking like a package deal for all 5 counties. Is that kind of off the board?
I think in pricing, we are not doing everybody has to pick their own, right? So individually, but working with the Transcendent, they are taking that into consideration that like multiple counties would be doing it. So when they do the transition, they're looking at the one type of database. So it should be less work because they're not reinventing the wheel to try to transition that data. So we'll push them.
I'm curious,
Evan always says, sharpen your pencil.
are the other 4 counties looking at this Transcendent also, or?
I've talked to
doing
a couple of them. Some are looking right now. Some aren't looking at all.
Oh, okay.
They're still waiting on it. I know one county is doing like what we are right now. We're bringing it forward. There's 2 meetings that'll happen, and hopefully they'll move forward with, and it happens to be Transcendent. So it's up to each county, right? Catalyst or Transcendent are really the 2 major products available. So we had to look at something.
I was just wondering if any other counties are in the process, if they're asking maybe questions that we haven't thought of, and it sounds like you've interacted with them as much as you could.
And I can't, okay, it's Richard Heath. Is it Oconto County? One of the counties I was talking to, Oconto, is actually transitioning to Transcendent right now, or working with them. So we're not the first. We're not going to be the last.
And I think the other piece too is the folks at Transcendent, one was a treasurer, one was a zoning administrator, one was an RPL. So they all understand and know.
Yeah, the
and-
importance of each one.
Yes, and how they all need to work together, which I think is helpful too.
Yeah, everybody's participating and looking at this, and although some departments might not like it as well as they might have this different vendor, in summary, it would be the best for the county overall.
in
Right,
my
like
opinion.
Evan, we've worked a lot with Evan, and
Yep.
there are better products for zoning and probably would do better things, but like Evan said, as a trade-off, this is the best product for the county as a whole. It's the best value as a whole, and it works. It's not like they're gonna struggle and not be able to do their job in zoning. The other thing, and I'll have Sylvia talk about it, is there's new legislation about protecting names. Do you want to talk about how
Sure.
another reason we're excited to move towards a different product?
Sure. Yeah, so moving towards a different product also allows us for greater efficiency in interfacing. So this year, Wisconsin Act 235, the Judicial Privacy Shielding Act, became law, which says that judicial officers are now allowed to have their information shielded in the Register of Deeds office as well as public-facing websites. So our system needs to be able to handle that efficiently and within a certain time frame when a judge would come to us and say they want their information shielded from the public, which stems from Judge Salas. Was it Salas that had her husband was killed and her son severely injured in New Jersey when someone came to her door and they had a GIS map sitting on the front seat of their car. So this prompted legislation that judicial officers should be able to shield their information from public-facing websites, which affects us. So looking at these new software companies, they are on top of this legislation as soon as it's implemented in our state, so that we can make sure when we receive these requests that we can properly shield judicial information. And so right now, with the system that we have, it doesn't interface with the Register of Deeds software. It doesn't interface with the Department of Revenue. So these are all efficiencies that will allow us to operate much better and also be able to protect the officers who are requesting shielding, which right now we don't have. And it's kind of been working backwards with the system because it doesn't interface.
Any more discussion?
I think the only other thing I would say is those laptops that we have for all the municipalities would go away. Also, Transcendent would take ownership of all training for all the municipal treasurers. They take all support software calls. They are there 24/7 for any kind of issue.
And this is included in the package that we would
Yes,
potentially purchase?
yes.
It's not like time and materials, it's included in the,
Which again goes back to IT, because right now they're managing an extra 22 laptops that with the new software and the two-factor and everything, it's really hard to manage 22 that are out in the wild, not here getting updated or
Right.
fixed. So part of this transition would also be is IT prefers to just say, every municipality, those are now yours. Just you're in charge of them. They're not ours anymore. It's 22 less laptops. So it's kind of like here, if you choose to still do your taxes on your own, that laptop's yours. And if it breaks, you got to get your own new one. It's like kind of a one-time disposal of those laptops.
sounds like we're on the right track. I continue on. Nobody else has anything? We'll move on then to our next item on the agenda, County Administrator. Financial reports.
I'll share them up on the screen. Should be in your packets, the same logoed section that we usually show. All right. So if you go to the first page, it's the general fund. We're at 31% of the spending. This month, May, is our 3 payroll months, so you'll see usually a little bit of a jump above where 33%, we're at 31, you'll catch up because you have your third payroll. Not a lot of outliers on issues we've been dealing with. Buildings and grounds has had a couple little things. We had some maintenance on boilers, but we put money in there yearly, so it's not behind, but it's those type of things just crop up. I would say the one to watch, and this is not picking on somebody did something wrong, is again with the sheriff's department and the jail. We've had a lot of big incidents in the last year even, but even the last 4 months, 5 months. So that creates overtime, that it creates more training, that's more materials you use. We're also with staffing over at the sheriff's department, we brought this up a couple times where we have individuals that'll be on FMLA or military leave, which then creates backfill, which costs more than having that individual working. So that's the area that nothing we can do about it, but it's just being aware. I can't think of anything else that has stood out. We haven't had any disasters or things break that would cost outside the budget. The next page is Health and Human Services. Talked at their committee meeting yesterday. We've had several high cost placements already this year, so we're way ahead the average number of individuals we're working with. Hopefully that subsides a little bit, but we have a few high cost placements that have put us, I think it's at like 145% of last year's cost year over year for the month or up to this point in the year. Again, something to watch. Not a lot we can do. We have built up a fund balance in Health and Human Services, but going into next year's budget, if it continues this way, it's going to be a tight budget year across all departments. The other funds, nothing's jumping out there. Highway, we had a good spring. Wasn't a bunch of big snowstorms on a Saturday and Sunday. We were out a little bit for ice or dew that freezes. But in general, they're set up for summer work and they'll get their construction season started. Price County's cash, we're 7% less than last year at this time. So again, we're way higher than we have been over the past several years. A lot of that comes down to we paid our loans earlier, a couple months earlier than we normally do, saves us on interest. But in general, we're right where we should be with cash. Sales tax, we had a really good January, February. January, we were, $7,800 more than the previous January. February, we're again up 15,000, 14,000. So we're doing well year over year. We did 2023 versus 2024. We're pretty stagnant. 1.4 million versus 1.41 million. So $13,000 difference. So far, good start to the year. Stumpage, definitely a accelerated start compared to last year. So we had in February, we were 40% over year. March, we were 100% over. So we were at 459,000 versus 220 March over March. April, we're starting to not increase our 2025 numbers as much. We're at 512,000, but which is still 15% more than last year at this time. So we got a lot of individuals working in the woods, which is good. We did our bid packet opening at the last meeting. There was 5 tracks that didn't sell, but that doesn't mean they won't come in and take it for the minimum bid. In general, we were looking for 650 was our total minimum, 600, just under 700, and the total bid on the ones that sold were 780,000. So still seeing some good bidding. We did talk quite a bit about, right now there's a lot of hesitancy in the bidding because we don't know how tariffs are going to affect lumber coming in from Canada or going out to Canada, wherever the lumber goes. So right now it's kind of, people are bidding to keep working, but not getting too far ahead. So not a lot of concern, but we also don't see a bunch of growth in that. High cost placements, we talked about this already. We're at 150%. So March last year, we had $71,000 in expenses. Already in 2025, we had 179,000. So we're $100,000 over year. They talked about it at Health and Human Services. We have, I think it's 2 very high cost individuals. AODA, this one's lower, but we're seeing more cases in CCS. So that's a part of AODA, but it's a different funding mechanism. So again, workload is increasing, but where the funding and costs are is not affecting this high cost placement. So we're $66,000 less this year than we were last year at this time. Health insurance, we're keeping it even. So right now we're at negative $50,000 in the fund balance. But that'll, again, hopefully by the end of the year, we're at 0 or close to. We did raise our premiums last year, but as we all know, health insurance continues to increase. We've already started discussing next year's premiums along with 2027's premiums and how we're going to work on not doing big jumps, but how it is going to increase. For example, the school recently got their renewal and it was 26%. So we know health insurance is just costing more. We're seeing more and more unique high cost individuals, which runs that price up. So we're managing it. We're still way ahead by being self-funded because we can manage it differently, because if we weren't, the company that would be doing our insurance is going to make their money. So they would be charging us 20% more than what we're currently paying because they have to cover their cost.
Is there any underlying reasons for the red ink here?
Because it's negative. Yeah, I don't think we have any unique large cases. I think it's just one comes in, one goes out, and it's just, you got to get ahead, right? You got to have a couple good months where you don't have a new cancer or a NICU baby or heart attacks are very expensive. Bypasses, heart attacks, if we could have 1 or 2 good months, all of a sudden you're $100,000 ahead. So,
And $50,000 in the scope of 4 months really isn't. You go to the doctor, that's not too much.
right. And we had over $1 million in.
No, I think that was a good decision a couple years back when we did this.
Yeah. I think one area we're really exploring. So when you go self-funded at first, the cost to cover your stop loss is really expensive. So because you don't have history, the previous companies don't share their data to say, oh, if you're going self-funded, here you go. Here's your stop loss companies. This should be easy. You bid it out at this. Well, so they're covering their cost of stop loss. So any individual over $100,000 we don't pay for, we get reimbursed. So we have outs. So like I have a heart attack with double bypass, it's $200,000. The county will pay $200,000, and then our stop loss insurance will come in and give us $100,000 check because the max we would pay is $100,000. In the meantime, we're paying the $200,000. Well, that stop loss insurance, they don't know on average how many people are going to hit it, what it looks like, what's your risk. So on average, we have 3 to 5 people hit over $100,000. Right now, our stop loss insurance is like $800,000 a year just to protect us from the extremes. We should be able to bid that out and save about $200,000 based on industry average after we get 3 years of data. So you're paying a higher premium because we have no credit, right? We have no history, but going forward, we'll have history and they can go, oh yeah, you were doing well for us. Now there's competitive bidding because we own our own data. So we can go to the next company and say, look at our data, bid it out. And then so the two companies start fighting over who wants to stay with us. So
So once we have this data, do we get a refund?
no refunds because they took the risk for us, but we'll hopefully that's like, so if we were supposed to get a 15% increase to stay at 0, we might be able to just do a 5% and see a better increase in our fund balance. So again, it's patience. We're managing it well compared to, I think, historically. The reason we got away from self-funded is we got really scared because we weren't managing it. We would get these big claims, and instead of saying, okay, baby steps, take a year to start increasing the premium, do this, do that, it was, we're going to keep losing $300,000. We can't do this, get out. And so we're taking a different approach of truly managing it, which is scary, right? We're at negative $50,000, but in the long run, like you said, I think it's still a fiscally better option.
Well, if I'm reading this right, we started off the year at 279,000.
Right. So we're
So we're
having a
actually
positive
making-
year. Yeah.
Progress.
Yep. So yeah, we took in $1.1 million this year in premiums, or paid ourselves, and we spent $888,000 in claims. So you're right. We've had a positive $200,000 a year so far, but we started off in a negative.
Are we seeing buy-in to the gas clinic down here more?
Yeah, that is huge. If anybody can support that, keep it here. That is, I would say we save about, for every dollar, we save between $7 and $10 dollars that they would have went to a regular hospital. Now, there's a little bit of cost up front, right? So my household has a $3,000 deductible. If I go there, I pay nothing, and the county pays $150. So my deductible is still $3,000. Where if I would have went to, say I did blood tests, it's $400. Blood test, $400 there. And I know this is an example because we were talking to an individual who thanks us a lot for this product. So a blood test, you go to a Tailored, it's $400. My deductible is $3,000. County pays all $400. Your deductible is $3,000. If that same individual would have went to Aspirus, so they had to take a half a day off because they got to drive down to Medford to go to the labs to do their thing, we lose production. But then their bill that they would get would be $1,200, and they told us this is how it's changed, right? So they'd get $1,200 for having an appointment, having labs, have somebody read the labs, do all the stuff. That would go against their deductible, but they had to do that same test every month. So now look at month 2. County still didn't pay anything because we're only at $2,400. Month 3, the county paid a couple dollars because if they were going to Aspirus, right? Because they finally hit their deductible. But then month 4, 5, 6, 7, we'd be paying $1,200, $1,200, $1,200. Where when they go across the street, we don't lose production as much because they're taking an hour instead of a 4-hour back and forth. And that's only $400, $400, $400 instead of $1,200. So it costs you because we didn't make the employee pay their deductible up front, but it saved the county significantly on the back end. And that's really hard for people to accept, right? They're not paying their deductible up front, but it's saving that household $3,000. They're probably going to go to the hospital for something else. There's always stuff, but or they might be on medication. We don't know that. Yeah, there's something there. But in the end, the county saves that $800 a month after month 3. So that's why we implemented it. The school, again, they just went self-funded, and they're also participating with the Tailored. So that's huge. That's going to keep them going and keeping them strong. I think the word of mouth is getting out that it's a great product. So both of us now will be saving quite a bit because of those options.
That's something that we stress in our quarterly meetings with the employees. They're just
Monthly.
because we're all taxpayers here. So
Yep. And that's a big part of it is we show, and I'm hoping, I worked with Laura yesterday. We used to get a quarterly report from Tailored that said you had 27 visits at $150. They won't tell you who, they won't, no personal data, but then they'll go and they'll say at Aspirus, we would have coded it as 005. 005 would have cost the patient $700, it costs $150. So then they'll give you the comparable. And we're hoping, like, say, if you did a whole year, we saved $200,000. We want to show the employees that and say, look, because you helped us out and went to Tailored, it was $20,000. If you would have went to Aspirus, it would have been $200,000 for the county. And that doesn't mean, look, you as an employee should get something more. What the message will be is that $200,000 would have been a 10% increase on your premium next year. Because you guys as a whole were helped the county out, we can reduce the need to increase the premium. So that's the message we want to we want to get them involved in the health insurance going into next year to try to get to the next level of savings is we're hoping we can implement. It's called My Health 360, something 360, where say you go to Tailored, my knee hurts, and they do the x-ray, it saves them a bunch of money because we did that. Then they'll go, okay, you need an MRI. So instead of going to Aspirus for $3,500, we want you to go down to Wausau for $600 to the imagery place. Same exact thing, different, saves the county a lot of money on that. So then they would receive a percentage of the savings. So say the county saved $2,900, they would get a check for $290 if you did 10%. So it's incentivizing individuals to help us save, and it helps them pay their deductible on by helping us. So then you get to a knee surgery. If you go to Marshfield, it's $60,000. Well, if you go over to the cities, it's $30,000. So if we have to participate in incentivizing it, say they get a 10%, so $3,000 check, which helps you with your deductible. We pay for a hotel and your driver, like the meals. All of a sudden, it cost us $33,000 or $35,000, but the county saved $25,000. So
I struggle to administer all that.
no, it's a
You're
third
gonna
party.
write out a check for 200.
We don't. There's a third party administrator that deals with that.
Okay,
Yeah, but it's incentivizing.
we write out the check, but somebody
We
else-
don't. The third party does.
Third party does.
Again, that's our hope. We don't know if we can get this up and running and truly what the savings will be yet, but we've been talking to employees, I think now a year and a half about that type of product, and there's a lot of buzz behind it that they're ready to help. They know that it'll be positive for them and it'll be positive for the total cost of the program. Any questions? That's all of our reports, I think, right?
Okay, moving on. 3C, review and update of county fiscal policy handbook.
Yeah, so we want to put this one in here. Carrie and I have been talking quite a bit. This is just something that should be updated every couple of years.
Last time was 2022.
Yeah, so it's been 3 years since we've updated. So we wanted to get it on the radar. And then what we want to work on is a couple of the policies in there to clarify or clean them up. But we wanted to give you guys an opportunity if there's something you can think of specifically that you want to see as a policy or a procedure when it comes to fiscal issues before we bring it back. I don't want to just bring it to you and say, here's all the policies we wanted to change. Brian broke the computer again.
Battery.
The battery. So I mean, I know it's out of nowhere. It's like, what fiscal policies would you like to see us work on? But do you remember there was 2 of them where we have notes in our office.
One, I think there was one office that wanted, and I can't remember which one off the top of my head, wanted a cash drawer. So we had updated and allowed them to have a cash drawer, but it's not in the policy yet. And the other one is regarding spending for grants and stuff like that. We need to read through that because there's been changes with the state. And the last time we changed some things was in 2022. So there's
The bid process
Yep.
too, the thresholds that needs to be updated. So just little updates. There's no major policies or procedures we're recommending. We want to give you guys a heads up that we're going to request updates, or if you have anything you want us to look at. we'll work with treasurer's office. We'll work with other offices. It's not just our office looking at it.
So you're letting us know it's in process, and if anybody has anything they want to
Yeah.
add, submit it to your.
And to remind you, we have a fiscal policies and procedures manual.
Okay. Thank you, Nick. All right, before we go on to number 4, I'm going to insert public comment and communications because I failed to do that at the beginning of the meeting. Maybe because there's nobody here from the public. Anybody have any communication? I'll take that back. *6 if you're online and have any comments. Hearing none. Do any committee members have anything they want to share? Communications. Hearing none, I guess it wasn't a big deal. Okay, agenda item number 4, 2025 WCA Annual Business Meeting Call for Resolutions. This is something that we do every year. WCA asks for resolutions from the counties to submit to the legislature after they go through an approval process at the WCA level. So this is just an FYI, if you have any resolutions you want to move on.
Yeah, a lot of times it's if you have as a board have created a resolution throughout the year. So
Like a clerk one.
yeah, the clerk of courts one, but there's a lot of counties doing it. The Knowles Nelson one that we're talking about, there's several counties that are doing it. The it was the HHS, the Chippewa Valley Health one we did in, that would be something you could consider. Or the reason we put it on this one is there was indication that there might be a resolution that you want to create by the deadline. So today would be the time to say, we want a resolution on X so that we can get it to the next meeting, June's meeting, so we can get it to the board in order to get it to WCA.
Yeah, these submissions have to be approved and passed by the board before they can move to the WCA. And it says that in your packet here that tells you what the requirements are. So if you have any resolutions that you want to see moved on, please submit them to myself or Nick. And we'll see what we can do. Any questions? Okay, hearing none, move on to a resolution confirming and ratifying the authority of council for Price County to add additional defendants to opioid litigation, including in MDL 2804. And you should have the resolution in your packet. I'll read the now therefore. Now therefore, be it resolved, the County Board of Supervisors hereby confirms and ratifies the authority of the law firms to file appropriate pleadings in MDL 2804 or appropriate federal or state court proceedings to add additional parties, including but not limited to the entities listed on Exhibit A as defendants. 2, the Corporation Counsel, Board Chair, or other authorized official to execute and deliver any and all other and further documents necessary to effectuate the intent of this resolution. Be it further resolved that all actions heretofore taken by the Board of Supervisors and other appropriate public officers and agents of the county with respect to the matters contemplated under this resolution are hereby ratified, confirmed, and approved. So, Nick, you want to explain all this a little bit?
So our legal counsel for the opioid case that we've been dealing with for 3-4 years now, sent this over saying we need to get this resolution done in order for them to continue to do their work for this section of the opioid litigation. So they sent over the template, said have your board pass it. It's due by this month, so that's why we put it forward. It's just that they continue, that we have chosen them to represent us in the opioid litigation.
I'll move with the resolution.
Motion to approve by Barkstrom. Do I have a second? Second by Polachek. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of this resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, number 6, courthouse electrical panel project. Should I have you do that, Jeff, or do you want Nick to?
I don't know what he's done since.
Okay,
I put up on the screen, I'm sharing an image just so you know what we're talking about. So this is the electrical panel in our courthouse basement. If you look down on the right, these two little red, this square with the two little reds, this is what was replaced recently. So we had an outage. All of a sudden, our boilers, our IT room air conditioner, and the hallway lights failed or went off. We got it switched back on, so it was like a fuse that broke. We switched it back on, it failed again. We had Piper come out, they ended up replacing it. The problem is because of the age of the panel, they can't get parts easily. And they're worried that going forward, they're not going to be able to get parts if parts of it keep failing. So we're up and running, everything's working based on this fix. The switch below it is having issues, so that's the one that runs our elevators and something else. I know elevators was in there, but that one is the next one that's going to eventually stop connecting. So it's kind of like the switch part of the switch doesn't work. So you can't individually turn that one off. You have to turn off the whole panel if you're doing work in that area. So we ended up, I went talking to Josh. We're prioritizing this as the project that really needs to be looked at and get something done here in the next year. So whether it's using capital improvement funding or capital improvement money, or we do it during our borrowing for the budget or some other way, this is our top priority for a capital project. We did get quotes. It's about $125,000 for this panel to be replaced. It'll update.
Did you do that when you got quotes? Did you get them from more than one concern?
We didn't. We went to Piper, so we would end up having to.
Piper is the one that repaired.
Yeah, so I shouldn't say a quote. We got an estimated cost of replacing. So we would still have to technically RFP it and get a quote from well, we might only be one quote or bidder, but we would do an RFP process if we do move forward with it, meaning multiple people could bid. Again, commercially, Piper is the local option.
Where are they located? I don't know.
They have a Park Falls. They're Park Falls.
Park Falls.
Yeah. Piper.
they're located in various cities, I
Yeah.
believe, but they do have a
Location.
location in Park Falls.
Yeah, out of Milwaukee is their like general. I think
so,
their
yeah.
their home base.
But they bought out Strand Electric.
So the reason we want to prioritize this, there's always a way to band-aid it and keep it fixing going. But the last time when this one burnt out or failed is a better way. Our IT area, the air conditioner failed and we couldn't get it back up and running. So we had to scab that together. We did get that up and running now. So we're okay there for now. It's working, but we also, the heat pumps that circulate the water in the building, because it didn't have its 3-phase power, it burned up. So we lost our main pump. We're working on our back pump. We're trying to get the main pump replaced. So when something goes out, it doesn't just turn the lights off for a couple hours. It really disrupts things. So in general, this is the next priority we're working on. And I just wanted this committee to know that we have a couple options. We either can do it in capital funding or capital projects. We can do it in capital debt. Or we can just make Josh pay for it and come out of the general fund, I guess. But those are the first two are the main ways of moving forward. So there's some other areas that we'll be upgrading when we do this, just so that we have security and limited access and things like that. But any questions about this project? We've been talking about it for a couple months now.
I'll just throw my 2 cents in that this panel is older than most of us in this room. And like a lot of older things, the knowledge or the capabilities is hard to replace, right? So this really should be a big priority for us to get this done before we have the next big failure, because if it turns out to be the IT room or some stuff over at the sheriff's office, it could get really, really expensive, really, really quick.
The only
So
thing that I'm concerned about is that you're only dealing with one supplier.
and I think because of the cost, we'll put it out for bids, but because he's local, a local electrician cannot do this work. It has to be a commercial certified
All kinds
electrician.
of them in Schofield.
Yeah, but Schofield, they have to mobilize. So then they're sending.
Well,
yeah.
no, we'll go through the
Concerned
bid
about dealing with
process.
one
Yep,
supplier.
yep. We'll go through
We'll
the
go through the
there's a
bid process.
Yeah.
He just got them to get an estimate because they were local.
Yeah, there's a process. There's an RFP process. We go through it. Everybody bids on it. Yeah. And it will be a weekend and night project. It will not be done during the day because we lose power to everything. And so that's another cost is this
the tech-
also runs other buildings in the county.
Technology is not all that changing. It's not, it's on or off. It's
Yeah.
contacts is where it goes.
Yes and no. Technology has changed considerably for safety precautions. If it does go out, there's devices that we can put in there that protect for the surging and like taking that motor out. There's equipment now that could be added. I don't know if it can be added to this old piece, but that will protect those surges and protect brownouts, we call them effectively, when they're not running on full power. So it's time.
So we'll start working on the RFP. I guess maybe that's the best way to today. If you guys want to prove that Josh works on an RFP, doing an RFP does not guarantee we do the project, but then you'll have your bidders, you'll have your quotes, and then we can
Yeah,
figure
I'll-
out
I'll make a motion that Josh continues with the process to
to create
eventually
an,
replace it.
to do an RFP.
Motion by Barkstrom to start the process to put together an RFP.
Request for
Request for
proposal.
approval.
Second by Hallstrand. Would you read it back, please?
Okay, I have a motion by Barkstrom, second by Hallstrand, that Josh continues the process to request for RFPs. Or the RFP process.
Yeah.
For the RFP process. So continues the process to request for the process of RFPs
I would say he's going through the process to get RFPs
to get RFPs.
or create an RFP to get bids.
And just so we know who we're talking about, maybe change it from Josh
Well,
to
do
buildings and grounds.
grounds, yeah.
Any further discussion?
Should I reread that one more time?
Sure.
Okay, motion by Barkstrom, second by Hallstrand for building and grounds to continue the process to create an RFP for bidding.
You gotta identify what we're bidding on, right?
On the electrical panel work for the courthouse. On the electrical panel work for the courthouse.
Everybody okay with that? Any further discussion? I'll just say I think it's a priority. Should be moved up pretty quick. Okay, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, move on to number 7, 2026 budget. Mr. Administrator.
Share a document here. So each year, before we officially start the budget process, we come to this committee and just say, are there any expectations, timelines, but expectations, thoughts, areas that you want us to focus on before we send out the letter? Because then what we do is on June 2nd through the 5th that week, we send out budget letters to all the departments. Technically the week before we meet with them all because that's our monthly meeting. So we would update them at that time too. But June 2nd through the 5th, we would do the budget letter to all departments saying, here's what our expectations are for what you return to us in the budget. We ask that that stuff's completed in that July timeline. In August, we come with a discussion at this committee meeting of the preliminary budget thoughts, where we're over, where we're concerned. By September, we try to get a final review to the executive committee. October, we have to get it to the board. You guys have to pick a levy number, and then November we have the final public hearing and the approval of or adoption of the levy. So that's the timeline. So what we need today, I guess, is are there any areas that you really want us to prioritize, whether it's capital projects, health insurance, wages? I don't know. We got the union negotiation coming up. That starts in the next couple months. We have a lot of capital projects, whether it's construction, vehicles, salt trucks. Any specific areas to focus on?
In my mind, it's just business as usual. I don't see anything that's jumping out.
Yeah, I would agree. Unless there's some kind of a issue where we need to replace something. I guess the focus should be on keeping our budget as low as possible.
That's different than business, because business as usual, the last year we went up 14% on our levy. The year
Right.
before we went up 8%. So that would be business
So-
as usual. So I'm clarifying
Look
that.
at keeping
special.
controllable
Yeah.
expenses as low as possible. But
Yeah.
if we got another salt truck that the frame breaks on, we have to deal with it.
That's
But
different. Yeah.
That's different. Yeah.
Where do we stand with our communication system, our radios and stuff for the county? I mean, I
We've-
know there was a meeting
yeah.
with Northway and
Yep. We've met twice with Northway, once with Northway and Bug Tussle. Northway's working on what that system would look like. I would say the area that's concern's the wrong word, but the area that we have to remember is we're actually kind of talking 3 different projects in one, because one part of it is updating all the equipment inside the building. One part is getting tower locations and getting equipment on those. And then the next part is the actual equipment on our officers. So whether it's cameras or that communicate or the radio. So we're putting it all as one project. Right now, it's a priority in my thought process of what we do with the budget, but because of some of the revenues we'll be receiving, some of the offsets that we've been talking about, possibly some funding in other areas, I don't see it being like, oh my gosh, we normally do $4 million in debt. We need to do 5 million, right? It's about $1 million project is what we're looking at for all 3 of those areas that we talked about. But there's some of the areas are going to be covered by our revenues through the Bug Tussle debt. Some could be covered through the 911 system stuff. There's savings on our yearly contract. We got a couple different ways we're looking at it, but it's going to be part of the budget. I don't believe like keeping the budget as it is. I don't see today it go from $4 million of debt to 5 million to pay for it.
so I guess my point was, are we looking at doing stuff in 26, or is this really 27 when we start implementing?
Both. So I because it's that 3-tier or 3 groups, there's some of it internally. We want to get that up and running. So there was a whole bunch of terms that
Sheriff, Chief
yeah.
Deputy, do you want to add anything? You don't have to. I'm not putting you on the spot, but do you want anything you want to focus on?
You want me up at the mic? Or?
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
so we can all hear you.
So with this project, a lot of it also depends too on when the towers are constructed. So to say we want it all done in 26, we can't say that. Really, that depends on the construction of the towers. And as Nick had mentioned, Northway is currently conducting the propagation studies for where we actually need our equipment and how much equipment we're going to need to be able to have effective radio communications throughout the county. I think a couple of the areas of priority that we would like to see in 26 would be the replacement of the portable radios, and things like that. But those portable radios we need that propagation study in order to determine what type of portable radio we're going to need in order to cover all of our dead zones. So as Nick said, I believe it's going to be 26 and 27 is when these projects would come
Right.
complete.
And that's where like the funding is like managing that budget level, because I think that's a priority of this board is saying, okay, last year we went up 14% as a whole levy because of the construction for the highway and we did more debt. How do we keep that at a consistent level going forward for a while to not continue that pattern? So if it's a 26, 27 project, there might be different funding areas that we explore, because then you don't have to eat up all your debt, because TJ has a storage project that's $600,000. We have buildings and grounds, whether it's the switch downstairs or there's another projects coming up too, but it's those little things that it's like, we just have to get all the departments' priorities and get them in front of you to say, okay, how does this fit in the levy?
And I will say for this radio project, I would say it's safe to say that this is our number one priority. Again, our portable radios, they're out of date by 3 years now. So when a knob breaks on them, it's very difficult to find parts if we can even find them.
So the equipment's not supported anymore, and you're basically looking for aftermarket or eBay or wherever to find.
That's actually when we break a knob or something on our radio, the Northway is buying the stuff off of eBay. And so, but now we also have the firmware in them and stuff like that that's no longer supported by Motorola. You can't update them and things like that. So it is a priority for the sheriff's office, this radio project.
And I think you hit it where it's like, we need to have the study to know where we're going to be located, on the towers, because that will change a lot of what type of radio even that we get. There's the newest technology can use cell phone service to amplify or to make sure we know what's going on. There's radios that can do GPSing, so we know if officer leaves their vehicle and starts running through the woods, the other officers can use their radios to locate that individual. Where these are all the new technologies, but if we don't have the radio towers, we shouldn't be spending money on that technology, but we shouldn't also be moving forward because we need something. So, priority one, that we buy the wrong product because we don't buy something that can be useful for the next 15 years. We buy something that's useful for 5 years because the technology is changing. So it's a lot of moving parts that we're all working to figure out. And then it's $1 million, right? It's not cheap.
So to get some hard numbers, we got to know exactly where the towers are going to be
Correct.
located.
Correct.
So I guess at our full board meeting next Tuesday, when Bug Tussle's here, we'll have to make sure that we let them know that. We need to know what they're doing.
Timelines. Yeah. And it is like Northway's been great because we have been working with Bug Tussle. They've given us general areas. So there's also the discussion, is it, do you use 4 or 5 towers with 3,000 kilowatts, right? Or do you use 3 towers with 6,000 kilowatt, amperage on your radios? So the 6,000 costs you way more, but now you're only maintaining 3 pieces of equipment instead of 5 pieces of equipment, or you only have to have 3 generators instead of 5 generators. So there's a lot more than just put them here.
Well, and I think part of this project, I don't know the answer, but all the local fire departments are all going to get affected by this, right? The ambulance services.
No, they shouldn't be. They should not be affected by this at all. We'll still be able to communicate with local fire departments. Now, it can be beneficial for local fire departments, especially with the placement of these towers. Pike Lake, for example, Pike Lake has a lot of communication issues within themselves as well as with our dispatch center because of the location of their jurisdiction and the lack of towers out there. Now, if Bug Tussle puts a tower out there, that then gives Pike Lake Fire capability of putting equipment on there for better communication. But as far as what the sheriff's office is doing, it should not affect our ability to communicate with the fire departments whatsoever.
Oh, good, because
Yeah, and
Yeah,
some of the areas that it's not us, but the fire departments, individual people can save is your cell phone becomes the same as your radio in many ways. So instead of, say you had 30 people on your volunteer fire department, all 30 of them have a cell phone that would be your radio. And then what would happen is you could communicate through that as a radio, but then when the call happened, you'd still get all your feeds, whatever's going over the radio. But when you got to the truck to actually get on and go to the scene, you would get physical radio. So you'd only have to have 10 physical radios, not 30, which each radio is $8 to 10 grand. So that's a huge savings for the fire departments. Now, it doesn't work well for us because we have to have those radios for all of our individuals. But
And one thing I would like to mention is that is something that we've been taking into consideration with these conversations with Northway and Motorola, is ensuring that we are not going to affect the fire departments in putting an unforeseen or undue cost on them with our radio project. And what we're being told is that it is not going to affect the way we communicate with fire.
so that's one that's we're prioritizing in this budget. The other areas we have talked quite a bit at our department head meetings. We know we're not seeing the same revenue increase as we have in the past. We're, net new construction, shared revenue, all those things aren't covering the increases that we're seeing in health insurance, just general cost of doing business. So I have updated the departments and saying that this is not going to be like it's been for the last couple of years, where it's, oh, we have an extra 400 or 500,000 because shared revenue came in. We have an extra, 250,000 because sales taxes continued to grow exponentially. Is there any number you guys would like to see as wages to start with? That's always a big starting point. A lot of times that gets eaten up by health
Not sure
insurance.
that should be talked about yet. Don't we want to do that more in private first?
This would be for the general
General overall
budgeting. Yeah.
wage scale, if you're doing it.
Yeah.
10%.
It's not a negotiate. It's just, what do you want to budget towards that? I mean, and you don't have to say a percentage. You could just say, we want to make sure we budget $100,000 towards wages. It doesn't, you don't have to put a percentage. It's just, or knowing that this is going to be a tougher year to do the expectation of, we don't want to see levy increases. We can set the expectation early that right now there's not funding in the budget for wages. I mean, that's an option.
You don't need a number today,
No,
just something
just
to
keep
ponder.
in mind that, I mean, it would be nice to have one because we're starting to work through the process. But here's the tough decision times that nobody likes to make. I have warned them it's going to be a tough year as department heads.
Okay. Any further discussion regarding that? Okay, move on to item number 8 then.
I got one question. Have
Go
we
ahead.
increased our number of employees?
Compared to,
A year ago?
we had no new ones this year. No, 2024 we did. Cause we had Laura's position.
Laura's position.
We had one over in Health and Human Services. The deputy clerk position. We had 2 over in the sheriff's department. We had, and this is over in the last, since 23, I would say, because this is kind of a timeline. Highway increased.
Part-time to full-time in sheriff's.
Sheriff's Department, yeah. Highways increased the number of employees. So this year there is one request that we'll bring forward for employees. But that's the only one I only know of one right now. I would say wages is not our largest expense. You know, that's the hard part about all this. Everybody always goes to like, oh, a person. Oh, cool. But there's a lot more to the cost of a person. That's usually not your biggest savings area. The hard part is the costs that go up are high cost placements, your insurances, even our property insurance. I mean, right now we pay $600,000 a year for liability, property. What's the other one? We pay vehicle, all the three insurances, and there's not a lot of options. So it's like, oh, by the way, there's a 15% increase.
Are you gonna give us, be able to anticipate what the increases will be like in net new construction?
Yep, we get all that.
That won't be until July.
Yeah, but we'll get all that.
Yeah,
I mean,
when
that-
they give it to us.
How much more we're getting in is gonna make a big difference.
That's why I said it's going to be a tough year, because even with net new construction, our average is 45,000. That does not cover
Anything.
the increase in health insurance. Sales tax was always a big saver, but we're now plateaued at that 1.4. I mean, we went from 500,000 to 1.4, so that's a helpful yearly increase. So.
Anything else regarding budget? Okay, we'll go on to 8, annexation of Phillips parcels to Town of Elk. Create a new ward or redraw supervisor lines. What happened was the city detached an area of land that was in District 11, which is Patty's area, and it's going to now be in District 8 if we just redraw the lines. And there's the population of residents there was 3. So
Is there an underlying reason for that? Because normally it's reverse where cities gobble up townships, but no, it's
you gotta let the administrator or
I know nothing about
Registered.
it.
I don't know either. I couldn't tell you. Sylvia.
Sylvia.
I can speak in general of it just because it's been an issue since last fall already. So a resident in the town of Elk or in the city of Phillips requested to be annexed into the town of Elk. So it's currently a city of Phillips parcel, but they are not connected on city water, city sewer.
Okay, but they're paying city taxes.
They're paying city taxes. So they made a request to be detached from the city of Phillips and annexed into the town of Elk. And it's my understanding that the city of Phillips and the township of Elk have both agreed that that can take place at their municipal levels.
Any questions or more discussion? My 2 cents is we just redraw the line officially, move those 3 from District 3 residents, basically is what we're talking about here. From District 11, they'll be in District 8 then. We don't want to create another ward or anything like that. We just basically gotta do the paperwork to
Not a big difference.
put it on file. Correct me if I'm wrong here. I'm just shooting from the hip, basically, but.
Yeah, Meredith, this is an election issue.
Sure, I can speak a little bit.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I was contacted by the Wisconsin Elections Commission, and because this portion of Phillips was annexed into Elk last December for voting purposes, the decision needs to be made whether to create a new Town of Elk ward for 3 people or to redraw the supervisor lines. And so some of the stats are the annexation affects 3 residents and 3 voters exactly. About 57 acres were recently annexed. 17 of those are zoned residential. That's the top portion on this map right there. 17 acres are zoned residential, 39 are agricultural, and Phillips right now has 4 wards, Elk has 2 wards, and they all have at least 88 to 100 voters in them. There's no wards in Phillips or Elk with 2 or 3 people. So as per the Wisconsin Elections Commission, the default is to create a new ward. But then we could also redraw supervisor lines of districts 8 and 11. And there's a bit more to the process involved with redrawing supervisor lines. The executive committee would bring a resolution basically to county board to redraw the lines. And then that would be sent to the municipal data system. That would go into effect November 15th. And then the Wisconsin Election Commission updates their records. So that would be the two options that you have.
Like I said, my take is we should just
Redraw the lines.
redraw the lines and put together a resolution.
Make a motion
Basically, it's
to that
just
effect.
doing paperwork to notify the state that we've redrawn the lines. And in our packet, looks like the city of Phillips and town of Elk have already approved resolutions to do that, so we're next in line for the process. So go ahead. Alan wants to make a motion to redraw the lines. Is there a second? Second by Polachek. Any further discussion? We'll have it at our next committee meeting then. You want to go ahead and read it, please?
Motion by Barkstrom, second by Palachek, to make a resolution to redraw the lines for districts 11 and 8 concerning the annexation from Phillips to the town of Elk.
If there's no corrections, we'll go with that. Anybody else have any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. Item number 9. Movement of the equipment fund money to purchase the boom mower tractor. Nick?
Yep, so this is an update from the Highway Committee meeting. They discussed that the boom mower is still a priority. And because we kept that funding from the loan proceeds, and the boom mower was on their 5-year plan, they have the ability to, the Highway Committee has the ability to approve a request from the commissioner to move a piece of equipment up on the 5-year plan to the current year as long as the funding's available. So it doesn't mean they can move it forward. So say there's a $500,000 budget, you had budgeted out $500,000 in equipment. The committee cannot approve a request from 2 years down to go up to $700,000 in spending because the budget's 500. But what Roger is recommending is the removal of some of the stuff that would be on, like would hit that $500,000 limit. And so they would still fit within the yearly budget of that equipment fund. So this is just an update to the committee that we're approving the use of the loan proceeds to offset part of the purchase of the boom mower after trade-in, after the loan proceeds, there was $25,000 that was needed to come out of the equipment fund budget. So it fits within
So-
the year and
The leftover loan proceeds basically from the greater loan,
correct. Yep.
it's roughly 150,000.
Yep.
And what Roger wants to purchase or needs is roughly 175,000. So,
190,000.
okay.
Because there was the trade-in was 20, we'll say 200.
Okay, so I
Round
didn't include
Yeah.
the trade-in. in
Yeah,
that
so
number.
so the tractor's 200,000, the old tractor trade-in's 25,000, the loan proceeds are 150, leaving approximately $25,000.
That he wants to move out of the equipment.
That he wants to be able to use out
Be
of the
able to
equipment
use that.
fund. But this is really just updating you saying the approval, there's been a request and a approval to use that loan proceeds, which will eventually need to be a resolution because it's updating the loan proceeds.
So for today, this is just an FYI.
Yes.
Yes, so I think we're gonna bring to the next meeting a resolution stating you're gonna use the remainder of the loan proceeds to put into the equipment fund, because that's where the fund is that you're gonna be using to buy the mower and tractor. So we're gonna move the remainder into the equipment fund, so then the equipment fund will buy that
And then the bank's happy because we've indicated what the loan was used for, which is a requirement, and everybody's happy.
Anybody have any questions regarding that? Thanks for that update, and we'll move on to number 10, update Price County Airport property tax procedure, which has to do with the previously known personal property building for things like hangars at the airport.
So this, again, just an update, since we approved it here and just letting you know. The only major update is this will not be implemented this year. So like this year, we'll still have to send out a separate invoice for the tax, just like we did last year for last year's taxes. And that's because even if we get all the paperwork done this year, it doesn't go into effect until January 1st, which then your tax bill for January 1st doesn't come till December 2026. So we're moving forward. We want to get this done by January 1st, so that it's on file and record, so that the next tax bill goes to the proper, two tax bills from now go to the individual as a tax. We are working with, Jules has been sending out letters to all the hangar owners, letting them know the county surveyor will be on their property to mark the corners of they have to have Sylvia, you wanted to, not waypoints, but
A legal description.
yeah, but what's it, the points, what are they called? He's going to survey the corners, but there's
Corner markers?
no, there was something, but it becomes a legal description.
Right.
He gets meets and bounds of the building, needs and ways, something. Anyways, surveyor's going out there.
Mets and bonds.
Is that what it is? Surveyor's going out there. He's going to make a legal description of where each building is located on each lot, so that Christina Ritz's office can finish the paperwork to get it filed through the Register of Deeds by January 2020.
We own all the lots, do we not?
Yeah.
Yes.
We
So
own the lots. They just have a building that sits on them.
and that's the problem, right? So it used to be personal property taxes. The state got rid of personal property. So then we started getting taxed as a county because we own the property. So we're now saying you own that hangar, you're going to get the property tax bill.
So are they getting the surveyor bill or are we eating that?
We're taking that because this is not a requirement. So we're making it a requirement going forward. So if someone built a new place, they would have to go through the BFI process. But if we don't pay for that in the legal fee, to get it all done, then every year we'd be sending out an invoice saying, we got a tax bill, can you pay it? And there's no repercussions if they don't. Where now we'll be able to go through the tax deed process or in rem process.
When this was first brought up, was the surveying part of the costs that you shared with us?
No, well, we didn't know we needed an official survey, so that's why we're using our surveyor. So Sam is our county surveyor. He does 8 hours a week, so we told him to fit it within his normal.
Okay, so
It should not be an
it's
additional.
costing us money, but nothing additional.
Correct.
He's gonna fit it
Yeah.
into his
The
normal.
legal fees should be the
routine.
only fees that are
Okay,
above and beyond.
that's good.
Yeah. They asked, because Sam goes through who's his company?
Quest.
Quest. So Sam is employed by Quest. We pay Quest to have a county surveyor 8 hours a week. So they did ask, do you want this outside your normal hours? And we said, nope, just fit it in when you can fit it in. We figure a couple weeks
Good.
at a couple hours here and there. So shouldn't take too long.
Any further discussion regarding that? Okay. Item number 11, monthly vouchers. We need a motion to approve. Motion by Polachek, second by Bartstrom. Any discussion regarding vouchers? Any questions? They've been around. Everybody's had a chance to look at them. No? Hearing none, go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor of approving vouchers signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Date of the next meeting as of right now is June 12th. Keep it on the schedule. something changes, you'll be notified at least 2 weeks in advance. Yeah. And if there's nothing else, nobody has anything else, further comments, concerns? I will hereby adjourn this meeting.